Hello, 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 everyone. Happy Wednesday. How is everyone doing this fine GDP morning? Good morning, Daniel. How are you today? You had higher GDP growth today, but euro is dropping. Yeah, and the dollar is looking like it's trying to put in a bottom. Lots of earnings from last night and this morning. Thank you for putting all those in. We're not going to review them all here, although Snap, they did beat, but they pulled guidance. Hey, Patrick, good morning. Caterpillar was a miss, and also I'm going to give Patrick this credit. Caterpillar issued two outlooks with and without tariff impact. Like we talked about, I'm so bummed. Actually, I wanted Amazon to post the tariff stuff. I think that should be. You know what? The administration said, even Lutnick was on. You know what? 10% tariffs aren't going to affect prices because you don't know the margins on all this stuff on every company and how it all ripples through. But guess what? If it's not going to affect prices, then you should want the things to be posted because it would be zero impact on tariffs. Look, you'd want that, but no. But no. No, 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 no. I keep getting told it does not increase prices, but that's not. We'll see. We will see. What else do we have? What else do we have here? Visa was a beat. Just go through a couple of these key things as I scroll through all of them. Thank you for putting them all in, Sterling. Thank you for putting them all in. Daniel, do you trade the channel? The problem is you don't. I have not found a good way to predict whether a double will become a double or a channeling double, and a channeling double generally only hits the first target. So if it start turning channeling double, that's where I'm more aggressive with profits or get break even and managing stops. I don't have a second set of rules because I didn't find one that worked. Good morning, John. Good morning, Heinrich. Good morning, David. When is a techno intro? I don't have it within me to make a new intro. I didn't make this last one. It was made for me. When you see Ken pop in here occasionally, he's the one who made it. So shout out to Ken. PMG, good morning. So that's the way it is right now. If somebody else wants to make a new intro and put on different music, that's fine. Yes, Jake, terrible data from a GDP standpoint. Good morning, Anissa. Good morning, Harold. Good morning, Options 22. What else? Good morning, Jacob. All right. Let's see. So people are talking about the data. First off, just to look at yesterday, the Fed Services Index, remember we had a terrible print on the Dallas Fed Manufacturing Index, which came in horribly on Monday. Fed Services is coming in at -19. Very bad number. And revenues dropping substantially. Now, today, I don't really pay attention that much to ADP employment change. It fluctuates too much and does not have a great correlation with stuff. People citing it saying that's dropping and we're in stagflationary stuff, which I actually agree. We've been talking about that for a long time. But we had the GDP numbers come out and the this is first quarter advanced numbers came in -0.3. Employment cost benefits is up from prior. Cost index is in line. The price index is up 3.7%. Core prices is up from prior 2.6 and above consensus. Now, this is looking backwards at the first quarter. We still have the PCE numbers coming out, which is in March, which you'll probably see a drop in there. But we could then see a ramp up starting next month. So the PCE prices quarter over quarter for the whole quarter was 3.6%. Consumer spending was down from 4%, but still they don't have consensus in here. It was still I don't remember what consensus was, so never mind that statement. It was down from 4%, but still positive. Now we have the Chicago PMI 15 minutes after the cash open. Should still be in contraction. We'll just have to keep an eye. But then more important, 10 a.m. Eastern. We have all the PCE numbers for March. That's going to be very key. So do not be asleep at 10 a.m. Eastern. Then we have pending home sales and the EIA numbers. Good morning, Andrea. Hello, Charles. So far with that GDP print, we got a lot of red. We got a lot of red. Telecoms holding in there and healthcare's hanging in there. But other than that, a lot of red across the board, especially with the mega caps. Let's refresh the groups. Healthcare is only positive by 2 basis points. Then everything else is negative, led to the downside by technology and consumer cyclical. Fed Watch Tool, we'll do another quick refresh on this to see if it changed at the top of the hour. And with the probabilities, we still have a pause for next week. They're not going to shock the market with an emergency cut next week or anything. But 1, 2, 3, 4 cuts still priced in. 4 cuts still priced in with pretty much climbing for a more definitive cut in June. Fear and greed still in fear mode. Schiller PE still mid 34s. Sterling again put in all the earnings today. What's key? I didn't see Starbucks. I must have missed that. But Starbucks earnings were not good. Starbucks earnings were not good yesterday, and their comp sales were not good. Now, after the close, we got Microsoft and Meta and Qualcomm. So again, and then tomorrow we got Amazon and Apple. We are not out of the woods for volatility, a little volatility yet this week. Based off of this, we're getting the pullback. Here's your daily S&P chart. Pulling back, breaking down, testing this first level. I'm really watching to see. We're breaking down from the little upward sloping channel. And going to be watching if we really start breaking through this night. That's NASDAQ, sorry. Let me get to the S&P. I don't know why I had that on that. The S&P is still holding the key support. That's why I was a little confused. S&P still holding the key support right here. Right here, the key level I'm looking at in the S&P is 5490 still. 5490. If the PCE numbers come out disastrous, so we start selling off into this next section of clear path, the next major support isn't back until 5380 to 5400 in that area. 5380 to 5400. I'm going into the open though, watching this 5490. Right now we're trying just above that 5504. And then if on any bounce, you can see there's the GDP sell-off bar. I'm going to be watching the first level of key resistance on any bounce. I'll be looking at is about this 55.35 area. Okay, if something were back to positive, then it's back to that 55.75. Now keep in mind, we have daily cycles. We talked about this yesterday, and we climbed a little yesterday, but now we're definitely rolling over today. We could easily start seeing a more substantial pullback. Does that invalidate the double yet? Does that wipe out the markets yet? No, it doesn't. But I'm really going to be watching today if we do continue to drop out closes in relation to the flat rotation zone. NASDAQ testing very key levels right now. Testing very key levels right now. This 19,250 area. We start breaking below there. My next key level is 19,080 to 19,100. If we continue beyond that, not necessarily today, because that would be a pretty big wipeout move. We're already down 192 basis points. But the next major level is 18,700. To the upside. Again, I'm going to be watching this going into the open, but the major breakdown level is back at 19,450 on any rally. The Dow, not much to talk about. With the Dow has not had a lot of great patterns recently, but the major support area in the Dow is back at 40K. 40K rejected yesterday from this 40,700 area. Remember, we're not trying to call highs and lows. We're trying to call key resistance levels. So that's why I'm also looking at for key support. On any rally, it's 40,600. The Russell, also big rollover bar in that with the Russell. The Russell key support is 1938. If we break down from there, the next major support area is about 1915, then 1890, or roughly 1900. And to the upside, the key on any rally, if PCE comes in light for March and the market step back 1964 to 1965. Well, take a look at that, Christoph. VIX, a little pop in the VIX. Nothing substantial just yet. Going to be paying attention to again. 27, but the major area I'm watching is 28. Little pop here. So going to be paying attention. Still going to be watching for the VIX to potentially roll over again. If we get, unless now, we got Microsoft, we got Meta, we got Apple, we got Amazon. If some of those produce disastrous results, then it will be interesting. I don't know if they will. I think next quarter could be much worse for them, but we shall see. Again, we only trade the patterns. We don't predict what's going to happen. The DAX, little pullback here. Minor support coming in. Now, right around this 22,350 area, we can come up with around 350. Major support on any pullback is coming in at 22,160 area. I'm still expecting the DAX to possibly push higher through this week. We do have cycles rolling over, though, so I'm going to be watching forward to see how big this pullback is. I should be saying I probably expect it to get higher next week. I'm going to be watching with the cycles rolling over how much it pulls back this week. Notes, closing just above a very key resistance level yesterday. So, paying close attention, very overbought, but key support coming in at 111.21. The yields closing below a very key level yesterday, trying to spike up, but dropping back down. So I'm going to be watching now if this becomes resistance, the 4.18 area. We are at cycle bottom, so that's why I want to see how this plays out over the next couple days, and then we could start getting some decent setups. Dollar index, as Daniel brought up, it is a channeling. It hit the first one. Now it's forming a channel. Now, this will tell me something. If this gets invalidated with a channeling double, then we've invalidated a pattern which has decent probabilities, and the dollar, which has been weak for a while, can't even sell off again to form a stronger bottoming pattern. So I'll be watching then for this longer term or more medium term bottom in the dollar. What would it take to invalidate this? It would take a dollar index close above 99.15 today. 99.15 or a trade through 99.30 roughly. Those would invalidate the remaining targets on the double. So, again, it has not been invalidated yet, so we do not know. But so far, it is turning into a channeling double because it's holding a very nice channeling pattern after only hitting the first target. Crude, the head and shoulders, we're just going to pull that off for now. It went through the fail-safe trend line. It broke key support. I'm no longer tracking it. I'm going to be watching for any rallies to continue to roll over and then see if we put in a stronger bottoming pattern down here. Other than that, I'm waiting for stuff there. Gold still trading. Gold still holding that same key, the same key support area. The 32.75 area is very key, but nothing new to talk about. So far, the rotation zone is holding. The dips are getting bought in the rotation zone. Besides that, is there a longer-term setup? No. The only thing I'm watching for is the same thing I talked about yesterday. If we break above 33.75 for another short-term pop, unless you're trying to buy support, then you'd roll it higher if it does close above 33.75. Yen. Not much to talk about there. We're going to be watching for this to also make it more substantial bottoming. Euro, we still have the potential head and shoulders coming into play, but not yet triggered. Spiders, Spider's a little gap down today, so the targets to the upside on any rally would be to yesterday's open 548.91, then to the close 554.32. There is a pretty key support level right at this 545.60 area, 545.60. And then I'd be watching the bottom of the 4-hour rotation zone around 540.50. Those are the key levels I'd be watching on any pullback. Again, so far we've hit the first and second targets on that one. We are at cycles at the top and overbought. So again, this can get pulled back. This can easily pull back. If we start dropping more over the next couple of days, watch the way we close in relation to the daily rotation zone. The Qs, which finally filled the gap back from the 2nd of April and finished the double pattern. There you go. Done. The support level here, which we're trading right now, is just around this 466 area. We're trading just above that. We break down below that. Give me my lines. The key area I'll be watching is around 460 to about 462 for major support. We're trading right at key support now, and if we do break that down, I'm watching the bottom of the 4-hour rotation zone. So, Bitcoin still basing. Cycles have gone from the top to the bottom, come out of oversold, and still basing below the 62.5. But still in the potential roller zone unless we close above 96,256. Christoph, Oracle. That is a valid double, and it is triggered as of yesterday. So, going to be keeping an eye on that. Now, the weekly rotation zone is still right smack dab in the way. So, know where your stops are in this one, and especially look where the first target is, and look where a key breakdown area is. So, if Oracle manages to pop, and Oracle does not have earnings until middle of June. But I'd really be paying attention to this 150 area, not the full targets, because it is against the rotation zone. It is out of the way on the daily, so it's going to be pulling back there, but that weekly is very key. What's interesting is the daily target, final target, is right at the 200 if it managed to get to that. But this is one of those slightly lower probabilities, variety, because it is against the weekly rotation zone. What else do we have? Let's just peek at Tesla, which is still trading against the 200 key resistance area. So I'm still looking for rollover plays, but nothing yet. We got cycles at the top and very overbought. There's just this little mini double top right here. That's the only thing, the mini one. I should call it a potential double top. NVIDIA. Not much to talk about here just yet. Not great setups there. Broadcom, going to be watching now if it can hold the support level with the rotation zone. If it doesn't, we're going to be watching for a failed breakout with cycles at the top. Again, we have a bunch of other stuff. Microsoft and Meta. Microsoft confirmed the double yesterday but did not trigger it. Confirmed because it traded above this base but has not triggered it going into earnings. So that is very interesting. Could not trigger the double officially yesterday. And we had earnings out after the close today. Now, since looks like it's going to pull back, it might not trigger before earnings today. So it might this might be one, if they do beat earnings, it could easily pop to these targets. But there's no official trigger. Meta has not, and they have earnings after, you can see here, nowhere near confirming or triggering the potential double. SMCI. Big gap down on this. This is one I'm still watching for it to break this very key support at 27 at some point and then return just the bottom to fall out on this. But that is trading down. When are their earnings? They're on the 6th of May. Going to be really watching, with their accounting stuff. I forgot what they released yesterday. They released something. Yeah, they forecast Q3 earnings per share 17 cents. That's a huge drop. That's what I was thinking of yesterday. So their third quarter earnings, they dropped. The consensus was 46 cents, and their prior guidance was 36 to 53, and they restated it 16 to 17 cents. That's pretty major. I'm surprised it's not down more. So there is nothing that I'd want to touch this stock from a long perspective with right now. Potential longer term short side trade, look at EQNR. EQNR, let's see. It has several weekly tests as a downside right in the 62.5% retracement area from the COVID lows. Let me get the charts updated. You are spot on. Still holding that area. And this weekly flat rotation zone. So, yes, if this does close below this 21 area, I'd be looking for a continued pullback. This could be interesting also if it does get any pops in it, to sell up at a key resistance for a potential rollover play and a retest of those lows. Other than that, it's in no man's land right now for me. But if it did close below 21, I'd be watching then for the continued plays, and that could be interesting. That could be an interesting play. Longer term, would I be shorting it now? No, I'd be looking for pops closer to this 25 area for potential short setups, and then see how it reacts to that 62.5 on a rollover. There's no bullish setup just yet. Mags. Yet has not officially triggered. We'll have to see. We will have to see. But there you go. Again, it's confirmed but not triggered. Needs a close above 46.68. 46.68 is key on that. It is at cycles tops. So keep an eye on that, especially if it does not invalidate the cycles, get back to the bottom. If it hangs out here, close to the highs. All right, let's just peek. Again, there's not a ton of great setups right now. Not a lot of great setups. So sometimes when there's not a lot of great setups, the best thing to do, from my perspective, is sit on the hands and not force anything. Sometimes that's just the way the markets work. Nothing just yet, even on the S&P. Just, again, watching to see if it holds this key support going into the open. And do not ignore the PCE numbers coming out in 30 minutes. 30 minutes is going to be very key to set the tone for us today, especially if we hold these key supports and then the PCE numbers from March come in light. And they are expected to come in lighter. Let me see here. They are expected to come in lighter. Core PCE was 0.4 last, expected to come in at 0.1. The headline was at 0.3 and expect to come in 0. So if those come in even lighter than consensus, we could easily see a potential snapback rally. So going to be paying attention to that. And remember also, yes, we do have cycles rolling over. There's two kind of corrections. There's the pullback correction and the sideways correction. That's why I'm going to watch to see if this support breaks. Because if the support breaks, then I'll be watching more for the pullback correction. If it holds, we could easily trade in a range. We have the Fed meeting next week also. It's all going to then depend on Microsoft, Apple, Meta, and Amazon's earnings. With that, I shall talk to everyone tomorrow. Thank you for tuning in. Bye for now.